Good morning, all. So today we'll see infection prevention control. It's a training program conducted by NHM for all COVID-19 healthcare workers. So coming that today's topic is infection prevention control. That is for COVID situation, infection prevention control in COVID situation. So what is infection prevention and control? So infection prevention and control is a scientific approach with the practical solutions designed to prevent harm caused by the infections to the patients and the healthcare workers, grounded in principles of infectious disease, epidemiology, social science, health system strengthening, and rooted in patient safety and service quality. So who is at the infection of risk? So first, so in all the healthcare workers, for example, the frontline workers, that is sanitary workers, staff nurses, doctors, patients, inpatients. So from there, it can go to anyone. So from common public, it can come to anyone. From there, for example, from sanitary worker, it can go to the home. From staff nurse, it can go to home and to any other one. So from doctor, it can go to everyone. So it's like a chain of infection. This is how this spread. So these all the frontline workers, we all are in the high risk of getting the infection and transmitting the infection. What is the benefit of infection prevention control? So to protect yourself first, then to protect your patient. Next, you are protecting your family and community and environment. So this is three is very important. So first you are protecting yourself, then you are protecting the patients, then you are protecting your family and community and environment. So what are the goals for infection prevention control in outbreak preparedness? So to reduce the transmission of healthcare associated infection, to enhance the safety of staff, patient and visitors, to enhance the ability of the organization health facility to respond to an outbreak, to lower and reduce the risk of hospital, that is healthcare facilities itself amplifying the outbreak. So first to reduce the transmission associated with the infection, next to enhance the safety of the staff, patient and visitors, and to enhance the ability of the organization and health facility to respond to an outbreak, and to lower the risk of hospital itself and amplifying the outbreak. So இதுதான் ரொம்ப முக்கியம். So the role of infection prevention focal point, that is teamwork core committee. First is knowledge. We have an understanding of infection prevention control strategies needing for outbreaks and epidemics, etc. First, you should have adequate knowledge. Then coming to the assessment, preparedness and readiness. So you have to just assess the situation, then how to prepare, and you have to be ready. For that, you should keep a policy, standard operating protocols to be developed for that. Then you have to participate in response and recovery. Then you have to participate in surveillance and monitoring. Then you have to focus on patient management. Then you have to increase the infrastructure for the patient management. Then you have to educate the patient and other work. So general advice for COVID-19, which has been formulated by National Health Mission, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and other departments, including the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and everyone. So first, avoid close contact with the people suffering from acute respiratory infection. So how to find out acute respiratory infection? When a patient is having a cough with associated fever and other symptoms like breathlessness. So you have to follow frequent hand hygiene, especially after direct contact with ill people or their environment. Next, people with the symptoms of acute respiratory infection should practice respiratory etiquette, wear a medical mask and seek medical care. So this is general advice for everyone. So you can just see this pamphlet. This is being formulated and it has been circulated everywhere. What are the infection prevention control strategies? So infection prevention control strategies for preventing and limiting the spread of COVID-19. First, you have to apply standard precautions for all patients, ensuring triage, early recognition and source control, and implementing empiric additional precaution for suspected case of COVID-19 infection. And you have to implementing administrative controls. Then finally, using environmental and engineering control. So these are the main preventive strategies to be followed during the prevention and limitation of the COVID-19 infection. What are the standard precautions to be taken? So the basic level of the infection control, prevention control precautions to be used for all patients at all times, regardless of suspected or confirmed cases of patient. So any patient you are seeing has to be considered as a COVID-19 patient unless otherwise it has been tested and proven to be negative. Next, coming to the risk assessment, it is critical for all activities, that is, assess each healthcare activity and determine the personal protective equipment that is needed for an adequate protection. What are the elements of standard precautions? For example, first is hand hygiene, that you all know how to do a proper hand wash. Then respiratory hygiene, that is respiratory etiquette. So you have been always asked to cough into either shoulders or using a towel or other some protective cloth. You have to cough out. Don't cough directly. Then PP according to the risk that we have discussed elaborately. Then safe injection practices and shafts management and injury prevention that we are already practicing through our regular biomedical waste management training. Next, safe handling, cleaning, and disinfection of the patient care equipment. That also we have been already trained. Next, environmental cleaning, which we do routinely and which has been formulated and we are doing daily. Next, coming to the safe handling and cleaning of soil linen. Then finally, the waste management. These all has been already, enough training has been given to everyone. Next, coming to the chain of transmission. So this is a very important step you have to learn and how to see. You have to, the infection prevention control lies in breaking up this chain. So if you break this chain, you will win over the situation. If you lose, then you will get infection. First of all, the chain of infection, first infectious agent comes from reservoir, then goes for the port of exit, then mode of transmission, then portal of entry, susceptible host. So this is the chain of transmission. So where you have to go and break this chain of transmission. For example, for any infection to spread, all the links must be connected. So the link, for example, this 6 links has to be connected, interconnected. So if you are breaking any one of the link, see any one of the link you have to break, then it will stop the disease transmission. So for example, so if you break the infectious agent to transmit to the reservoir, you can win. Or from reservoir to the portal of exit, you can win. Or from mode of transmission, or to the portal of entry. Anything you break, it will break the transmission. Next, coming to the hand hygiene, the best way to prevent spread of germs in the healthcare settings and community. So it is the only proven and it is the only 100% effective method which is going to help you and save you. Leave about the other things, personal protective equipments and other things. Only hand hygiene and the respiratory etiquette will save you the maximum. So you should be doing it regularly. That we are repeatedly telling and training everyone. So our hands are the main tool for work as healthcare workers. They are the key chain in the chain of transmission. For example, door handles. From door handles, it can go to instruments. It can go to medications. It can go to cell phones. From cell phones, it can go to other areas. So it is all interlinked. So it is a two-way. So it's both sides is marked. So it can come from either this way to other way. So it can come. So this is very important. Next, hand hygiene, the WHO 5 moments, you all know. So we have talked more than 1,000 times about this. Before touching the patient, before clean and aseptic procedure, after body fluid exposure risk, after touching a patient, and after touching patient surroundings. Next, next, how we are going to follow the hand hygiene. The same 7 steps of hand hygiene. Use an appropriate protecting technique. An alcohol-based hand rub product is preferable if hands are not visibly soiled. So you have been surplusly provided with the alcohol-based hand sanitizer. So you are advised to use it as much as possible. You have to do it liberally. So you have been safe. So next is if your hand is dirty or contaminated, don't use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Better to use a soap, running water, then wash with a similar thing. Then you have to clean with the open air. Don't use a dry towel to clean. So this is the step how to use a hand rub, and this is step how to use a hand wash. But the same 7 steps of hand hygiene is followed both. But one thing you have to be very careful here, when you are using a hand rub, you can go for up to 30 minutes. But when you are using with the water, better do for 40 to 60 seconds. The procedure has to be done for 40 to 60 seconds. This is by WHO. Next, what is in the respiratory hygiene or etiquette? Reduces the spread of microorganisms or germs that causes the respiratory infection, that is cold or flu. Turn the head away from when you are getting cough or you are going to sneeze. Cover the nose and mouth with tissue. If tissues are used, discard immediately into a trash. Then cough and sneeze. If you don't have tissue, you cough and sneeze into your sleeve. Clean your hands with the soap and water or alcohol based products. Do not spit here and there. So next, how to promote the respiratory hygiene. So encourage the hand washing for the patient with respiratory symptoms. Provide mask for the patient with respiratory symptoms. Patient with this fever, cough, or sneezing should be kept at least 1 meter away from the patients. Next, post visualites remaining the patient with visitors to be with the respiratory symptom to cover when they are going cough. So what are the PPEs to be used in the healthcare facility for COVID-19? So to cover the nose and mouth, you use a face mask. To cover the nose and mouth when you are in high risk areas, you are using a N95 mask. To cover eyes, nose and mouth, we use a face shield. To cover eyes alone, you are using a goggle. To cover entire body except head and hand, you are using a gown. Next, you are using an apron and gloves for the hands and head cover for the head and hair. So these all you are wearing. What are the risk assessment and standard precautions? So the risk assessment is risk of exposure and extent of contact anticipated with the blood, body fluids, respiratory droplets, and or with the open skin. You have to select which PPE items to be worn based upon this assessment. For example, if you are having chance of getting respiratory droplet infection, you have to wear face mask and face shield. If you are going to touch a patient and you are going to do any procedure, you have to wear a gloves. So likewise, what are the risk? You have to use the particular PPE items. So no need to wear all PPEs when you are having one particular risk. You do no need to wear all the PPEs. Always perform hand hygiene according to the WHO 5 moments. Should be done for each patient at each time and kindly make this as routine. So நம்ம வந்து ஒவ்வொரு அசஸ்மெண்ட் அப்பயும் நம்ம இதை பத்தி பேசுவோம், பட் யாருமே ரெகுலர் ஒர்க் அப்போ பண்ண போறது இல்லை. பட் இப்போ நீங்க பண்ணீங்கன்னா தான் உங்களுக்கு சேஃப், எல்லாருக்கும் சேஃப். So coming to a scenario, that is minimizing direct unprotected exposure to blood and body fluids. For example, if you are performing hand hygiene, always before and after the patient contact and after the contaminated environment. If you are having any chance of getting direct body fluid exposure, when you are going to touch by exposure to your hands or any mucous membrane, you have to wear a gloves and hand hygiene you have to follow. Next, if any chance of splashes of body fluid, then you have to wear a you have to do hand hygiene, gloves and the gown. If there is a risk of splashes over the body and face, you have to wear all the PPE. So the need of PPE has been classified. நம்ம எந்தெந்த PPE போடணும்ன்றதை இந்த ஸ்லைட்ல பார்க்கிறோம். What are the principles for using PPE? Always clean your hand before and after wearing PPE. PPE should be available where and when it is indicated. That is in correct size and select according to the risk as per the transmission based on precautions. So திரும்ப சொல்றேன், நம்ம எல்லாருமே எல்லா PPE போடணும்னு அவசியம் கிடையாது. For example, general OP-ல இருக்கவங்களுக்கு வந்து not even N95 mask is required. You need only surgical mask and gloves. That too, gloves is mandatory when you're going to touch a patient. அது மாதிரி வந்து எல்லா இடத்துலையும் எல்லா PPE-யும் தேவையில்லை. அதை திரும்ப சொல்லிடுறோம். Always put on before the contact with the patient. Always remove immediately after completing the task and or leaving the patient care area. Never reuse a disposable PPE. இது ரொம்ப important. Disposable PPE யூஸ் பண்ணக்கூடாது. பட் அதுக்காக N95 மாஸ்க் நீங்க கேட்காதீங்க. N95 mask can be reused as per the many guidelines. It has been proved it can be reused unless otherwise it is stored in a safer area without any contamination. Next, coming to cleaning and disinfection of the reusable PPE between each use. So few PPEs can be reused between the usages. Next, change the PPE immediately if becomes contaminated or damaged. PPE should not be adjusted or touched during a patient care. Specifically, never touch your face while wearing the PPE. இப்போ நம்மளே நிறைய டைம் என்ன பண்றோம், N95 மாஸ்க் போட்டு அடிக்கடி தொட்டு பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம். ஸோ அதனால தயவுசெய்து பண்ணக்கூடாது. Be careful. If there is a concern or breach of these practices, leave the patient care area. When safe to do so, properly remove and change the PPE. Always remove carefully to avoid self-contamination from the dirtiest to cleaner area. So that has been propagated in doffing of PPE. So நம்ம doffing of PPE ல இதை பத்தி டீடைலா பேசியிருக்கோம். The 7 steps for safe injection. So we are because injection can cause a breach in the infection control measures. We are trying to avoid at the maximum for every cases, and only in the emergency situation we are allowing for the injection. So first, how to be giving a safe injection, you just learn the 7 step. 1, clean the workspace. 2, follow the hand hygiene. 3, sterile safety engineered syringe. 4. Sterile vial of the medications and diluent. Next, sterile cleaning and antiseptic. Sorry, skin cleaning and antiseptic. Then appropriate collection of shops and appropriate waste management. இது வந்து நம்ம ரொட்டீனா பண்றதா. So we commonly call as one needle, one syringe, only one time. So அதான் வந்து safety injection practices. Next, coming to the environmental cleaning, disinfection and biomedical waste management. It is important to ensure that environment cleaning and disinfection procedures are followed consistently and correctly. So அதுதான் நம்ம ஜேடி சார் கூட வந்து சொல்லிட்டு போனாரு. நம்ம ஏற்கனவே பண்றோம், பட் திரும்ப கரெக்டா பண்ணுங்கன்றது தான் அவர் சொல்லிட்டு போனாரு. So though the cleaning environmental surface with water and detergent and applying commonly used hospital disinfection such as sodium hypochlorite, that is 0.5%, or ethanol 70% are effective and sufficient. Medical devices and equipment for laundries, food services, utensils, and medical waste should be managed according to the safe routine procedures. So what is the triage and early recognition and source control? So early recognition, triage and source control will help in breaking the chain of transmission to the maximum. So what is the how to manage ill patient seeking care area? So use clinical triage in healthcare facilities for early identification of the patients with acute respiratory illness and to prevent the transmission of pathogens to healthcare workers and other patients. Timely and effective triage and infection control. Admit the patient in the dedicated care area. Specific case and clinical management protocols has to be followed. Safe transport and discharge home. So these are the routine way how to manage a patient when you're coming for the hospital. So triaging. So how triage will help you? Triaging will prevent overcrowding. Conduct a rapid triage. Place ARI patients in a dedicated waiting areas with adequate ventilation. In addition to standard procedures of implementing droplet precautions, contact precautions, if close contact with the patient or contaminated equipment or surface or materials. Ask patients with respiratory symptoms to perform hand hygiene, wear a mask and perform respiratory hygiene. Ensure at least 1 meter distance between the patients. The triage or screening area requires the following equipment. First, you have a screening questionnaire. Next, algorithm for triage, documentation papers, PPE, hand hygiene equipment and posters, infrared thermometers, waste bins, and access to cleaning and disinfection. Post signage in public areas with the syndromic screening questions to instruct the patients to alert healthcare workers. So setup of area during triage. There is ensure adequate space for triage. Maintain at least 1 meter distance between cleaning staff and the patient. Waiting room chairs for the patient should be 1 meter apart. Maintain one-way flow for the patient for the staff. Clear signage for the symptoms and directions. Family members should wait outside the triage area. 1 second. So this is the most important step. Family members should wait outside the triage area to prevent the triage area from overcrowding. Next, coming to the hospital admission. Place the patient with the acute respiratory infection of potential concern in a single well-ventilated room when possible. Cohort patient with the same diagnosis in one area. Do not place suspected patient in same area as those who are confirmed. Assign healthcare worker with the experience with the infection prevention control and outbreaks. So this is the thing you have to follow during the hospital admission. What are the additional precautions you have to take? So the patient suspected or confirmed COVID-19, the contact and droplet precautions for all the patients with suspected or confirmed COVID-19. Airborne precautions are recommended only for aerosol generating procedures. That is example of open section of respiratory tract, intubation, bronchoscopy, and cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So even few times we in our hospital we missed to wear PPE while doing a CPR. So from now onwards, be careful. You don't do any CPR or any aerosol generating procedures without having a proper PPE in place. Next, preferably patients should be in a single room Natural ventilation of with airflow of at least 160 liters per second. I mean, that is air exchange. That is air exchange of 160 liters per second per patient in negative pressure rooms with at least 12 air cycles per hour in a controlled direction of airflow when using a mechanical ventilation. Cohort: all patients with respiratory illness should be in a single room or of a minimum of 1 meter away from other patient when in a waiting room. Then you have to have a dedicated and trained healthcare workers. Healthcare workers to wear a PPE, a medical mask, goggles, or facial shield, gown, and gloves. Hand hygiene should be done at all the time. Hand hygiene has to be done at all the time. You have to use the WHO 5 moments to apply before PP and removing other PP. Next, the equipment should be of single use whenever possible, dedicated to the patient, and disinfection to be done between the users. For example, the usage of thermometers and other equipments. Avoid transporting suspected or confirmed cases. If necessary, patient has to wear masks. Healthcare workers should wear appropriate PPE. Routine cleaning of the environment is very crucial. Limit the number of healthcare workers, visitors, and family members who are in contact with the patient. If necessary, everyone must wear PPE. All the person entering the patient room, including visitors, should be recorded for contact tracing purposes. Precautions should continue until the patient is asymptomatic. Coming to the outpatient care, the basic principles of infection prevention control and standard precautions should be applied to all healthcare facilities, including outpatient care and primary care, triage and early recognition, and emphasis on hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, and medical masks to be used by patient with the respiratory symptoms. Consider having signages. If possible, place the patient in separate room away from other patients in waiting rooms and wear mask, gown, gloves. If possible, seeing them in a clinic. As much of contact and droplet precautions to be done as possible. When symptomatic patients are required to wait, ensure them to have a separate waiting area, that is 1 meter separation. Prioritization of the care of the symptomatic patients to be done. Then you have to educate the patient and family members about the early recognition of symptoms, basic precautions to be used, and which healthcare facility they should refer to. Coming to additional control measures, so the hierarchy of controls. So the most effective control is in the greener part, that is the upper one, and least one is the lower one. So elimination, that is the most effective control. Physically remove the hazard. So physically remove the hazard is being done by the social distancing, and you are trying to avoid this. Next, coming to the substitution, replace the hazard. Next, coming to the engineering controls, isolate and isolate the people from the hazard. Then administrative control, change the way of the people work. Finally, the PP comes. So you be just aware of these things. So in hierarchy of controls, the PP is the least effective method has to be followed, because in the large scale, only the elimination will be going to help you. So what are the administrative controls? Provision of adequate training for healthcare workers to ensure adequate patient to staff ratio, establishing a surveillance process for acute respiratory infection potentially caused by COVID-19 among the healthcare workers, ensuring that healthcare workers and public understand the importance of promptly seeking medical care, monitoring the healthcare worker compliance with the standard precautions, and providing mechanism for improvement as needed. So these are the administrative controls. Next, coming to the home care for the patient with suspected COVID-19 infection with the mild symptoms. Place the patient in a well-ventilated single room, that is with the open windows and an open door. Limit the movement of patient with the minimized shared space. Household members should be staying in a different room. If not possible, maintain at least a distance of 1 meter from the ill person. At least the patient has to be sleeping in a separate bed. Limit the number of caregivers. Good health and no underlying disease. Visitors should not be allowed. Perform hand hygiene after contact with the patient or their immediate environment, before and after preparing food, before eating, after using a toilet, and whenever hands look dirty. And to contain respiratory secretion, provide medical masks to the patient. And individuals who cannot tolerate medical masks should be rigorously using for the hand hygiene and respiratory etiquettes. Caregivers should wear tightly fitted medical masks that covers mouth and the nose when in same room. Avoid direct contact with the body fluids. Use disposable gloves and a mask when providing oral or respiratory care. or when handling stool, urine, and other waste from the patient. Perform hand hygiene before and after removing the gloves and the mask. Use dedicated linen and eating utensils for the patients. These items should be cleaned with the soap and water after use and may be reused instead of being discarded. Clean and disinfect daily surfaces that are being frequently touched in the room where the patient is being cared of. Using a household soap or detergent should be used first for the cleaning, then after that rinsing, and then regular household disinfectant, sodium hypochlorite can be used. Clean the patient clothes, bed linen, bath, hand towels using a regular laundry soap. Coming to the usage of mask, use of mask limit the spread of certain respiratory disease. Mask alone is insufficient to provide a adequate regular protection, and other relevant measures should be followed like hand hygiene. Wearing a medical mask when not indicated may also cause unnecessary cost, procurement burden, and create a false sense of security that can lead to neglecting other essential measures such as hand hygiene practices. Using a mask incorrectly also hamper its effectiveness and reduce the risk of transmission. Next, using a mask in community setting, individuals without respiratory symptoms avoid close crowded space, maintain distance of 1 meter, practice hand and respiratory hygiene, refrain from touching the face, nose, mouth. Then you don't need any mask. Individuals with respiratory symptoms wear a medical mask, then seek a medical care and learn how to use a mask. Next, coming to them, individuals with suspected infection with mild respiratory symptoms, relatives or caregivers, along with hand hygiene, keep a distance from the affected individuals as much as possible, at least 1 meter distance, improve airflow in living space by opening windows as much as possible, and mask management. So this already we have been spoken in healthcare settings, how to use a mask, mainly healthcare workers who are in a high risk area when they're going to do a aerosol generating procedure in a COVID positive or COVID suspected patient, they need to use a particulate respiratory N95 mask that is NIOSH certified or FFP2 certification by European Union standard or any equivalent standards when performing a aerosol generating procedures like tracheal intubation, non-invasive ventilation, tracheostomy, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, manual ventilation before intubation, and bronchoscopy. So be aware that N95 mask is needed only you are doing any aerosol generating procedures while handling a COVID positive patient. Place the mask carefully to cover the mouth, nose, and eyes securely and minimize any gap between the face and mask. Avoid touching the mask while you are wearing the mask. An appropriate technique to remove the mask. These have been already trained how to wear a mask and how to remove a mask. Always do a hand hygiene by using alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Replace a mask with a new clean dry mask as soon as they become damp and humid. Do not reuse a single-use mask. Discard single-use mask in a proper disposable content. Next, you all be careful with the hand hygiene, respiratory etiquette, follow safe hygiene and others, and all precaution measures. Thank you. Here are few flyers that is been followed. Wash your hands. That is very, very, very important. Without following this step, if you wear all PP and everything, you are not 100% protected. Next, how to wash hands. You have been already trained, so be careful. And protect others. How to protect others from sick. So you have to educate the patient while coughing and sneezing. Cover the mouth with any tissue. If they are using a tissue, throw it in a proper bin and clean the hands with the alcohol-based sanitizer or wash your hands. Next, coming to avoid close contacts. And most important thing is you should educate the patient not to spit in the public. And if any patient have fever, cough, or difficulty in breathing, he has to be coming to healthcare system for taking the test. And these are the few flyers issued by the World Health Organization under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So the following signs is very important. So the fever, cough with the difficulty in breathing has to be coming, the patient has to be tested and you have to just treat them accordingly. Thank you.